What I wanted to start off with is personality types. And some people, there's different titles that people give them, but could you, Keith, if you would just kind of talk to us about, I think there's 4 main personality types. I know most people, I'll go ahead. I know most people talk about extrovert and introvert, but if you want to kind of go a little, let's push a little bit beyond just extrovert and introvert.
It really depends upon the depth of the assessment. There's actually 16 different personalities, or a combination of 16 different personalities. So, that's if you're looking at like Meyers-Briggs, or it's a 16 personality profile, and it's a combination of any of those things. Like you could have a different combination of any one of those personalities, and it may look as though you have a totally different personality as someone else, when in reality you share some of the same legs of that personality, but it can still cause conflict. It can still cause misunderstanding in a relationship. And I want to give you an idea of where this started. It actually started with us personally, because now the assessment that we originally used to discover this is called the DISC assessment. It doesn't mean that I necessarily endorse that. I just happen to be certified in that particular personality assessment. But we found out after the first 3 or 4 years of our marriage, which was hell on earth, by the way. It was a very, very difficult time. We learned that while opposites attract, opposites do not endure. It is the people who have like personalities that actually get along better than those who have opposite personalities. So in this process, during our marriage experience, I learned that Mandy's personality is exactly the opposite of mine. And it made perfect sense as to why we were having so many struggles. And once I learned that she was not the enemy, that she wasn't arguing with me, the way that she processes information is different than the way I process information, then I basically had to learn to appreciate that, not become defensive, which was a common response from me, and say, okay, this is just the way that she's processing information. But anyway, I say all that to say that recognizing these differences in personalities can be a godsend, because if you don't realize that you basically have different personalities, it's not that your wife or your husband is an idiot. It just means that they have a different personality than you, and you need to appreciate what that is and see that as see your spouse as being an ally. The same thing goes for your children. Recognizing that your children are going to have different personalities than you. And like, for example, our daughter probably has more of my personality, which means, and Mandy is her primary educator. So you can obviously see where the conflict would come in that. So Mandy, being
although there are specific areas where she's very much like me.
Yes.
So I've had to learn where those areas are and how to best approach certain situations depending upon, what side of that she's coming out of in the situation. So.
Right. So anyway, I think that I may have overspoken, but I just want you to know, from where I sit, the first thing that I do in most clients that come in my office is I assess their personality, because it does 2 things. It helps me to better understand who they are, but at the same time, it helps me to better know how to connect with them, because rapport is everything in counseling. If I don't have rapport with my client, then I'm going to get nowhere. They're never going to build a trusting relationship with me. And if I don't have a trusting relationship, then basically I'm wasting their time. So one of the things that's important is finding out what their personality is. And once I know that, and because I know all these personality profiles, once I know that, then I can connect with them on a level that not only they will recognize I'm different, but they will also recognize that I appreciate their personality. Right. And they don't feel like that all of a sudden they're bad or that they're wrong, because a lot of people have been taught that, because because you think too much about things, then there must be something wrong with you. Because you overanalyze, there must be something wrong with you. Or because you're flippant about things, then something must be wrong with you. You don't think through things like you're supposed to. You don't know how to make decisions. You know what I mean?
Right.
But those are not negatives. Those are just differences in personality, and you got to appreciate those things.
So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, coming back to education, one thing I know, because I come from public school background, and I noticed a lot of kids who are very talkative, very energetic, using their full body, kinesthetic learners, they struggle a lot in a traditional classroom. And when you're saying that, I think, have you ever seen that where that comes out where if you are a talkative, if you're putting your thoughts into words, you kind of get scolded?
Absolutely.
Do you think that's where some of that comes from?
Well, and an example of that is my daughter she's very artsy, very creative, and she absorbs information better if she's doing something with her hands. So in the beginning, it would drive me nuts because she would always want to be playing with something in her hands. And I'd be like, you're not listening to me. Listen to me. And she was listening, but in order to really take in what I was saying, she had to be able to do that. And so that's kind of, I think, what we see even in those extremes is that for a child to really absorb what they're trying to absorb, there's other things that, they're needing to do. It's interesting to me because that's not who I am. I'm going to sit and I'm going to listen and I'm going to be like this, and she's not. So now I've learned, give her some clay. She can be working that clay while we're talking or whatever she needs to do. And then I know she's really getting what it is that we're discussing, so.
And in the public school, I'm not bashing public school system, by the way. But
yeah.
I'm from the public school system too, but I do believe that they have a very limited approach to be able to reach kids because they have to reach so many kids at one time.
Right.
So therefore, it becomes very structured. And I didn't do well in that type of an environment. I actually didn't do really well in school until I went to college. Because in college, I had professors. I was kind of like more or less on my own, and I was able to be more creative in the way that in my style of learning. Whereas in the school system, it was write this down, read this, write a report on this. No, I want to know. It's not enough for me to know what you want me to do. I want to know why you want me to do it. Why is it important? And how is what I'm going to be doing? How is that going to be? How's that going to appeal to me? Where's the value in that for me? Now that sounds selfish, but it's not. Truth is, we're all like that. We all process information like that. It doesn't make us bad. It just means that we're individuals, and you can't teach 30 kids. You can't teach all those kids unless you are an amazingly gifted teacher. You can't teach 30 kids with this one very strong-willed strategy or whatever it is that you do. That you can't. Not everybody wears the same size shoe, and you have to be able to be flexible. And the public school system, I think, is not necessarily a place where they're allowed to do that, because you got to teach 30 kids, and that makes it, that would be a challenge for anybody. So I have a lot of respect for teachers, especially good teachers. And so I know what they're up against. When you have one child and you're trying to teach, you're trying to educate that one child, and you see the challenges in one child, I can only imagine 30 at one time. So anyway, for what it's worth.
No, and that's a great point. And I was I was the conformist, kind of student. I enjoy I could sit with a book, all day, read and write, and I'll be fine. And my daughter is a little bit more that way, but my son, that doesn't work. Like he wants to be doing things, and if he reads a little bit, and then he wants to talk about it, and he wants to converse about it, and so it's just more time consuming. But again, that's just the nature of each child is unique.